and welcome to Feels Like Magic, the podcast where you will get the grounded self-development wisdom you might need to feel amazing about the person you authentically are. I'm Jo, a transformational coach, speaker, and author, and for decades I was so stuck in self-criticism that I never thought I would feel good about being me. Now I inhabit a new reality, one where I care way less about what other people think. I'm willing to show up as the person that I am, and I deepen into self-love and acceptance every single day. Honestly, it feels like magic. Each week, I'll share scientifically proven tools, things I've learned from the world's best coaches, and personal stories I know you'll relate to. Ready? Let's dive in. Hello, my love. Welcome back to Feels Like Magic. So great to have you here, and this episode is a juicy one, and it's on anxiety and how I cope with anxiety, things I know about anxiety from my own personal experience, and I'll also be talking about things I've learned as a coach, because anxiety and the nervous system go hand in hand. So I'm going to be giving you some really practical tools to actually move forward if you are in a space where you are experiencing anxiety. And the first thing that I want to do is to just send you a lot of love, to just really send you, and see if you can just roll your shoulders back and feel this in your heart. I'm really sending you a lot of love, because anxiety can feel incredibly debilitating. It can feel incredibly overwhelming. It can feel like the only thing at times. And I want you to know that that's not the truth. I want you to know that if you experience even a small piece of social anxiety or a kind of consuming anxiety that is filling your days right now, I want you to know that we can manage it, that we can work with it, and you can move forward in your life. You absolutely can. So I want to acknowledge you for being here, for listening to this, for opening up to something when it might seem at the moment that nothing is working. That's all overwhelming and nothing is working, because I absolutely get that too. Okay, so before we dive into the practicalities of this episode, I want to remind you that if you're listening live, I have a gorgeous event coming up called Transform Your Self-Talk. And what I want you to understand about that is that self-talk goes so deep. Self-talk goes so deep. The things that we tell ourselves about who we are and what we're allowed to experience and how other people are responding to us, so much of that is where anxiety is rooted. So self-talk is so deep. And I really encourage you, even if you can't make the live calls where there'll be opportunities for coaching, but you just want to soak up the 4 days of wisdom, you can get them directly to your inbox. And this is something that is very time limited, so it will be available for a week afterwards, and then it will be swept away. So if you're at all interested, get signed up at joannebell.org/transform. Links are also in the show notes. Okay, so my love, let's begin with why we experience anxiety. And I want to link this up to the nervous system, because the mind can't outthink how the body feels. And so we experience a state of anxiety, which you might call a state of dread, a state of worry, a state of constant overthinking, when we are feeling in some way that there is a threat. In some way that there's a threat to us. And this is our biological programming. So we can't beat this, right? It's exactly how we are programmed. And every single person experiences anxiety to some level. So all those people that are like, they're so confident and they never experience it. I want to say that 99% of the time that's not true. It's just that we perhaps don't see it. So when we experience anxiety, we have a feeling of dread, a feeling of, for some reason, I can't relax. And what happens to our nervous system, or what has happened alongside this, is that we've gone from feeling secure and safe in our bodies to activation of the nervous system. So we've gone into a sympathetic nervous system response, which is fight or flight. And when we're in that state, there is so much movement and we're so programmed to think about where the threat is that we stop being able to think clearly. We stop being able to learn in the same way. We stop being able to critically think. We stop being able to interact with people in the same way because we're really consumed with, on a biological level, where is the threat? Where is the threat? That's why anxiety can feel really overwhelming in the body, because we're in this nervous system response. And if we want to just take a moment to relate this to some other things, there could be something traumatic that has happened to you that has also caused this nervous system response. And therefore, those things may feel linked. So it might go even deeper. It might go even deeper. There's layers to all of this stuff, right? And today I'm just really going to talk top line, why we experience it and what you can do about it to work with it in the moment. So when we go into this response, this nervous system response, nothing really feels safe. And what can often happen after that, and this is where I spent a lot of my life, is we then go into shutdown. We go from fight or flight, sympathetic, into parasympathetic, where we freeze, we go into withdrawal, nothing feels safe, we isolate from the world, and we keep ourselves separate. And the important thing that I really want you to understand is anxiety is here to serve us. It really is. And I know, my love, that it doesn't feel like that at times. And it can feel really overwhelming and it can feel really hard. And you might feel like, I just want this feeling to just go away. I would do anything to get this feeling to go away. And I understand that. I get it. And it doesn't change the reality of the fact that anxiety is here to serve us. So a really important piece of this, working with anxiety, navigating anxiety, is what you're telling yourself about your anxiety. A distinction that I want to make is you're not an anxious person. You're a person who is experiencing anxiety. Why is that important? Well, it's important because it's just an emotion. So if we over-identify with it and make it part of our identity, we're really doing ourselves a disservice. It's an emotion like anger. And so many of us don't want to think that we are an angry person, but we're not. Right? We're not. We're a person who is experiencing anger. Same with sadness. Anxiety is just another emotion. And one of the things that really helped me was that I would just put a hand on my heart when I started to feel anxious. And this was all after my beautiful, exquisite breakdown that I do talk about in episode 2. You can go back and listen to that if you haven't already. I just put a hand on my heart and I would say to myself out loud a lot of the time, of course you feel anxious. Of course you feel anxious. It makes complete sense that you feel anxious. And most of the time, my anxiety would come up when I was doing something new, navigating something outside of my comfort zone. And also for me, really in social situations. And something I just really want to touch on here in terms of working with a coach or working on healing is that it makes sense, right? That you really need somebody who you feel very safe with. Because if you don't feel safe, your body is going to be in this nervous system activation that I've talked about. And when we're there, we're not really taking things in. We're not really able to learn and to heal in the same way. So it's such an important thing that you feel safe with whoever is holding space for you in terms of working through whatever it is you want to work through. Okay, my love. So let's get to some real practical tools that can support you in terms of anxiety. And these are ones that really support me. The first thing that I want to talk about here is just awareness. And I know that might sound simple, but just awareness. Okay, wow, I feel anxious right now. I feel anxious. And once we have that awareness, the first thing I would love you to do is to go to regulate your nervous system. And that is because then we get to a point of safety that enables anything else to be possible. So here are a couple of tools you can use to just regulate your nervous system in the moment when you've had that, of course, I feel anxious moment. And you might want to put one hand on your heart as you say that to yourself. Of course, I feel anxious. particularly if you're doing something new or you're doing something outside of your comfort zone. Really having yourself in that moment. It's like, yeah, it's totally normal. It would be strange if I didn't feel anxious, right? So really normalizing it is really beautiful. So regulation tools that I love, breathing is one that I just think is so beautiful. Even if you are in a real state of like not wanting to sit, if you can sit with yourself, and I love box breath. So that's breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. I love, love, love box breath. But it could also just be big breaths in, long breaths out, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Slowing yourself right down. And, not every tool is going to work for everyone. So if that doesn't work for you, it's also totally okay. But really give it a try. Really give it a try and reach for it, even if there's a little resistance to reaching for it, right? Even if you're like, I can't breathe, like I can't. Again, I get it. If you're at the space that you actually can't breathe, then name things around you and bring yourself back to safety that way. But once you're in the space where you can breathe, try that one. The second thing that I really love is what is called exhale and affirm. So you take a deep breath in, and at the top of your inhale, you find the words in yourself, I am safe. And you say them as you exhale, so it truly lands in your body. So it's like, big breath in, I am safe. And as the breath comes out, the words come out. And again, you repeat that. So box breath or exhale and affirm are beautiful ones. Third one that is slightly different is when you tense up every single muscle in your body super, super, super tight, really, really tight, so that your face is all scrunched up and your toes are scrunched up and everything's scrunched up, and you all get it as tight as possible, and then you let go. So on the inhale, you squeeze in, and on the exhale, you let go. And for any of these, I would be looking to repeat them at least 3 times in the moment to bring you back to regulation. So the second thing that I would really recommend with anxiety, because anxiety really wants to take us into the future, is to stay in the here and now, to stay in the present, to be really mindful of this present moment, which is where all joy exists. This present moment. So really staying in this present moment enables us to cut through the noise of anxiety, cut through the stories that are maybe going around, and just be with what is. And that one way you can do that, as I mentioned, is you can kind of look around and you can name things and you can just be in the presence. There's a beautiful exercise that I sometimes do in journal workshops too, where we just literally write down a list of things in the room. So the beautiful thing about that is it just brings you again right into the present moment, right into the here and now, right into the what is real and true, instead of what anxiety is taking you into, which is what may or may not happen in the future, right? And how that may or may not feel. So if we can stay with what is true in the present moment, we can start to really alleviate our anxiety. And a question that I love to ask that I read in Eckhart Tolle's book a long time ago, The Power of Now, is, do you have a problem now? In this present moment, which is actually all we have, do you have a problem? Is there a problem here? And 9 times out of 10, there is not. So really stay present. This is not about gaslighting yourself or trying to make yourself feel in any way other than you do, but it is like, can I just be in what is real? What is actually here in my actual body in this moment, in the actual environment in this moment, and be really, really present to it. All right, my love. So number 3, this can be tricky. Acceptance and choice. So even if every single part of you wants to resist your current circumstance, can you bring in a level of acceptance. Because fighting with reality gets us nowhere. And I know I've tried. Can you bring in a level of acceptance to what is happening right now in your present circumstance, in your present moment? Can you be in acceptance of what is? Can you be in acceptance of what is? And then, can you exercise the muscle of choice? So you get to choose. If you have an overwhelming to-do list, you get to choose to take things off that. And I know you might be thinking, no, I don't, Joe. Has to get done. It has to get done today. And that's just how it is. I would challenge that. I would really look at it and I would challenge it. And I would invite you to challenge what actually has to happen. So can you just do the essentials? I tell myself that I don't need to do anything, that I can take everything off the table until I feel better, because I value my happiness and I value my mental health and I value my state of mind over everything else. I also know that it is completely ineffective for me to try and move forward when I'm in an anxious state. I have learned that very difficult lesson over many, many years. So can you move into acceptance, and then can you move into choice? Like, can you actually look at the things that are maybe causing your anxiety and decide either to surrender to them and let them go, or to take things off your list, to prioritize yourself? You always, always, always have a choice. And so much of anxiety comes from the feeling that we don't. So much of anxiety comes from the feeling like we are trapped. You are not trapped, and you always have a choice. Okay, my love. And my final tip here is journaling. You may be unsurprised to hear that, because I am a journal queen and I really believe in the power of therapeutic writing. And I just want to normalize that it might take a little while to get here. So when you're super, super anxious and you're in that activated nervous system response, it can be really hard to access that I'm going to sit down with a pen and paper part. So use the other steps first. But if you feel ready, or when you feel ready to come to journaling, what I want you to do is I just want you to get a page. First of all, you can just free write it all out if you want to, but be mindful that if you're telling yourself anxious thoughts and you're not challenging them. So an example of this would be like, everything's going to be awful. Everyone hates me. I'm going to have the worst time at this party. I just feel so overwhelmed. If you just keep feeling that, you're going to heighten your anxiety. So it's not just about journaling, it's about journaling in a very particular way. It's about journaling in a way that is super supportive for you. So this is my suggestion. You put a line down the middle of your page, and on one side of that line, you write down what you are worried about. What are you anxious about? Like, if you think about it, what are the things that are making you anxious? Oh, well, I have a presentation at work that I've never done before. The person that I'm dating hasn't texted me back in 3 days. Whatever the things are that are making you anxious, I want you to write them down. And I want you to also write down the story that you're telling about them, which usually is, it's going to be awful, or I need to be really worried about this. So getting really, really clear about what am I worried about, what's causing me anxiety, and what is the story that I'm telling about it. Because we are storytellers, it's how we understand the world. And so many of our stories, because we have negative bias, which biologically programs us to look for the negative, so many of them are ones that are going to cause us anxiety, or negative, or things that aren't true in this moment, but we fear may come true. So writing down, what am I worried about? What's the story I'm telling about it, on one side of the page. And then on the other side of the page, I want you to write reality check. Reality check. And the reason that I call it this is we are not going to toxic positivity. You may tell that I don't like that very much. We're just going to like, can I reality check this? Is this actually true? Do I have actual evidence? Like, I'm going to go to the party and everyone's going to hate me. Okay, everyone's going to hate me? Why would people hate me? Why would they have such a strong reaction to me? So you start to really look at, what is the actual reality? I'm not going to be able to do the presentation at work. Okay, well, the reality might be I'm really well prepared. I've done everything I possibly can. I've given presentations before and they've gone well. So I really want you to lean into that part because, again, this is all about choice. You have a choice to let anxiety take over. And for some of us, I will not lie, that becomes comfortable because then we get to stay stuck and small and we don't have to go outside of our comfort zone. So you have a choice, right? You have a choice about whether to let anxiety take over or go to the reality and make a different choice. So, my darling, in summary, anxiety is a completely normal human emotion that we all experience. If you are in an anxious cycle or an anxious loop, it still doesn't mean that you're an anxious person. It's just something you're experiencing more regularly. And there are practical things that you can do in the moment to bring yourself back to safety, to bring yourself back to nervous system regulation, to bring yourself back to security. And the more you practice these and the more you normalize the emotion and don't give it so much power, the more you're going to be able to move through your day and feel freer, feel better, feel more like you. One thing I do want to say at the end of all of this is that there are always layers to this work, and we can shift the top line anxiety. We can work with the emotion and the feeling and the bringing yourself back to safety in your body. And there may be deeper things underneath that are moving, that are ready to be healed, that are ready to be looked at. I'm sending you so much love, and I will see you real soon. Come into Transform Yourself Talk if you haven't already. And I can't wait to continue on this journey with you. Thank you so much for being here and being you. If you're ready to dive deeper on your self-development journey, visit joannebell.org, where you can sign up to get even more magic, access incredible bonuses, and find out more about working with me.